Hey guys, Taylor here. I'm thrilled to be sharing this video with you today. Today, we're going to be veering off from the usual content, specific strategies, mindset shifts, health tips, that sort of thing. And I'm going to be bringing you a comprehensive step-by-step journey of a client who's become one of my biggest success stories to date. So John, he was an executive who was struggling with his weight and balancing that with his busy, hectic schedule. And I'm going to be sharing the exact same steps that we took, not holding anything back in this one, and telling you exactly how we helped him lose 20 pounds in 12 weeks and eventually an additional 12 pounds to get him to his ideal body weight where he's been maintaining now for a few months. So I just want to say to all of you entrepreneurs, executives, hardworking professionals, you guys are phenomenal. You're always constantly looking to level up and you're incredibly committed towards bettering yourselves and improving. And when I do get the privilege to work with guys like you show up, right? And that's exactly what John did. He's absolutely a testament to that. And for him, even more than the awesome, physical result that he got, he's really just a good example of somebody that's developed the identity of somebody who just leads a healthy life and respects their word to themselves. So today I'm going to be breaking down our approach, the process, the mindset shifts that he made that really made this transformation possible. So sit back, set your notifications on silent, close any distractions, dial in for this one. You get what you put in, and I know you guys are incredibly busy, but this could possibly be the best time that you've spent in a long while if getting in shape is something that you're really after, right? And although it's around 41 minutes long, trust me, it's worth every second, especially for anybody that's struggling to balance their professional commitments with their personal health and getting in top shape. And I will say that, this video will resonate with you regardless of your professional background or your fitness level. There's something in here for everyone, something that's going to spark some change, some new insight, or a new realization. I can absolutely guarantee it. So without further ado, let's dive right in. All right, welcome to this training today, guys. Today we're going to be going over the case study of how John went from a stressed out 201 pounds to a high performing 181 pounds in 12 weeks using the automatic action framework. And he did that without compromising time towards his career or quality time with his new fiance. So if you're planning on finally getting in top shape and you implement this formula, you will be able to create similar results for yourself in a very short time period. Now, before I get into the meat and potatoes of the process, how it works, how we applied it specifically to John, I've got to dispel any doubts and substantiate my claims here, because I know if I don't, most of you simply just are not going to pay attention. So let's dive into a few success stories here of a few of my clients. All right, so this very approach that I'm going to be sharing with you today is exactly the same approach that helped Jonathan Tasai shed an impressive 27 pounds in 12 weeks, despite having to show up for his demanding schedule and somewhat hectic role as a senior engineer manager in Silicon Valley. In New York, we have our case study, John Weinberg. He was a busy venture capitalist, also working for Amazon at the time, who, as I mentioned, lost 20 pounds in 12 weeks. But that wasn't all. He also got in better physical shape and strength than in his college years. And at the time of this recording, he's lost an additional 12 pounds. So next up, we have Aaron here on the left, a Hollywood actor and a acting coach. He lost 20 pounds in 12 weeks, just like John. Today, at this time of this recording, we've got his most recent picture. He's down to 155 pounds, so another 17 pounds off since the 3-month program. And then over here to the right, we have Joel, who lost 32 pounds in 12 weeks. He did that while working as a cop, also full family, and he had a side hustle with the carpentry business that he was getting started. Really busy guy. Pretty impressive weight loss in 12 weeks there. We also have Luke, who I've agreed to keep his identity private. Also an entrepreneur running a small team in the marketing industry. He lost a whopping 46 pounds in 12 weeks, while also increasing his performance, his energy, and during that time, he also massively scaled his business. And then finally, we have Steve here, a government contractor who had an extensive history with kind of beating up his body and doing things like CrossFit. He managed to lose 18 pounds in 12 weeks, but he also got over his injuries and his overuse injuries that have been, following him for years, and just overall achieved a better balance between work, taking care of his health, and spending time with his kids. Now that we got that out of the way, who is this training for? So this training is really for those of you that aspire to make a positive impact in the world, on the people that you care about most, the people that you cherish, and really for people that realize that the best thing that they have to offer is the best version of themselves. Their joy, their time, their presence, their example of how to lead a healthy life and take ownership over their results, essentially, right? So I'm usually talking to guys who strive for that multi-dimensional success. Maybe they've got the accolades, they've got the nice car, the nice house, a thriving business, and they've achieved a high level of success in those areas. But something is still off, something is still missing, right? Maybe they've got a bit of a belly they're not happy with, and their body is starting to become a limitation for the type of experiences that they want to live out. And they demand more from themselves, right? So if you're tired of your physical fitness becoming a roadblock to that multidimensional success, if you have a desire to transform your body into an asset rather than a limitation for life, then you're in the right place. This training is for you. And look, if you can relate to anything I said before, your actual problem is not what you think it is. Those are all just symptoms. They're not the root cause. The real challenge, and the good news is that it is solvable, is that you haven't yet implemented the necessary shifts to your process, your systems, and your thinking. And that's precisely what we're going to be going over today here. Real quick, who is this training not for? I won't be offering any magical pills or shortcuts in this training. What I will promise you is honesty. I will present the unvarnished truth about what it takes to realistically ensure that fat loss or body transformation isn't just another phase for you. Now, there's an epidemic of shiny object syndrome going around, right? Especially with people who are entrepreneurs or they're running businesses, and for people who are trying to get in shape. It's the idea that we constantly lack the necessary information to get the result that we want, which often leads us to chase new fads, new techniques, new programs, that sort of thing. Instead, I propose that we gather enough information to become dangerous and then focus on what it really takes for you to implement these changes and maintain consistency, which we all know is really the real issue, right? I think it was General Powell who said, if you're 80% sure, you're too damn late. Now, you may have heard the statistic that 98% of diets fail, right? It's not a diet that fails, it's an individual, right? And it's usually not because they don't know what to do or lack the necessary information. Like, yes, you want to have a plan, you want to have a process, you want to know the tactics that ideally are aligned with your goals, your specific goals, and meet you where you're currently at, right? And today, again, I'm going to go over that with you and give that to you so you do have enough information to be really effective. But often the real issue is a lack of implementation and ownership. If you don't agree with that, I'm sorry, but this training is not going to help you. Allow me to share a truth about getting in shape that very few are willing to admit. It's entirely possible to get in shape without having to sacrifice precious hours that you could otherwise be investing in, growing your business or spending time with your family, or feeling like you have to resort to like all or nothing techniques like bland rabbit food, crash diets, or anything like that. However, the majority of people who lead busy lives struggle to make this a reality generally because they fundamentally fail to comprehend how to leverage their time effectively. They generally don't grasp the art of automating their habits and actions, right? So that these beneficial patterns become ingrained in their daily routines and eventually their identity, right? Too often I see guys throw themselves into that full Spartan mode and take the all or nothing approach, right? They may achieve a decent result in the short term, but eventually they're going to wind up back where they started or worse in just a few months. By being here, by watching this, you've taken a significant step to prevent yourself from being one of those people. Something that you need to understand if you want this to work for you, there's a common misconception that you must dispel from your mind. And it's the belief that getting in shape requires an exorbitant amount of time that you simply can't spare. Time is an illusion. right? And it's astonishing how some people manage to accomplish incredible things with very limited time frames, while others achieve virtually nothing over years or even lifetimes. So the concept of time management is often a misnomer. What we really want to focus on is priority management. And at the end of the day, you're going to either choose to make it happen or not. Now, there may be environmental things or strategic things that you can tweak and change and do to make it easier on yourself. And again, I'm going to help you with that today. But if you've ever found yourself saying, I don't have time to get in shape right now, I'll wait till things slow down, rethink that shit. When exactly are you planning on slowing down? And here's the truth. It's not usually about having enough time, but rather knowing how to effectively utilize the time that you have. If you aspire to be someone who takes charge of their time and doesn't allow it to become an excuse, this breakdown will guide you through, number one, navigating around the challenges that often deter you from maintaining a consistent health and fitness routine. Number two, achieving a balanced lifestyle that combines work, family, and personal health, which is key if you want it to last. Number three, reaching your ultimate goal of getting in top shape and living a balanced life where you physically can maintain a high level of fitness that actually complements the other areas of your life. It shows up at home, it shows up at work, and it's a complement. It's a reflection of everything that you do. And for doing all of this without encountering, common pitfalls, things like unsustainable diet fads, crash diets, unrealistic workout routines, things that leave you feeling like throwing in the towel rather than leaving you feeling like you're in control. All right, so real quick, I got to get an introduction out of the way. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Taylor. I call myself a performance coach. There's my wonderful wife, Tula, and our pup, Finn. Bit of a background, I've always been athletic and interested in athletics until life took a bit of a turn later on. Previously in a failing marriage at the time, and due to not carrying myself very well, I gained a bunch of weight and I was about 80 pounds overweight. And that was even with my military background. That was, after being a personal trainer and actually training people, I still let myself go, right? I had all the tools, I had the know-how, but I still found myself being a victim to my own destructive patterns and habits. So for me, I realized that the battle wasn't anything to do with my knowledge base, obviously, but it really came down to what was going on 6 inches between my ears and my habits and my processes and my behaviors and a new system that met me where I was at. Life was getting busier. What was working in the past wasn't going to fit anymore, right? But basically, I had to take a hard look in the mirror to make the change. And that was the turning point for me. I had enough. I made a strong declaration to change, and I ended up really diving into the intricacies of human behavior, psychology. Did a lot of reflection on that with myself and focusing on habit formation rather than the most optimized diet and training plan. I devoured books, hours and hours of podcasts, and I ended up investing over $30K into my own coaching and behavior change education. Fast forward to today, and I've dedicated the past 3 years of my life to helping others in similar situations start owning their health and their fitness journeys and getting in top shape and sharing my experience with them. So now that you have a bit of my backstory, let's dive into how I drive results for clients like John specifically. The automatic action framework is my system that I built through my own trial and terror while losing 80 pounds in a year and keeping it off now for over a decade. Now, let me show you how we optimize each stage of this system for John so that he was no longer held back by the mistakes that he didn't even really know that he was making, and finally able to figure out a sustainable system for getting and staying in top shape year-round. So without a doubt, success in any venture in life really hinges on really three crucial pillars. An optimized process, right? You have to have a plan, a developed mindset and habits, right? And then, of course, accountable support for speed and efficiency. Now, John was like many high-achieving guys. He struggled with his weight. He tried various diets. He wasn't a lazy guy, right? He had an extensive history of getting after it and trying different things, different programs. He tried all the supplements and everything, but nothing was really sticking. He wasn't able to consistently get down and maintain his weight. He lacked a personalized plan that met him where he was at. He also lacked a supportive community, accountability, and a solid grasp on the habits and the behaviors that were necessary for long-lasting change. So firstly, you need the right process, right? So we started by crafting a customized plan for John, taking into account his personal needs, his schedule, even his unique physiological needs, right? Everyone's got a different thumbprint. And our aim was really to make a plan that was so doable and eventually enjoyable for John so that it wouldn't just be another diet or exercise plan, but a sustainable life change that he could eventually own as his own thing, right? So your fitness journey shouldn't feel like punishment. And if it does, it's not going to last, right? No one's ever built a $100 million business without falling in love with the game of business. The same is true for building an impressive physique and making that your default standard. So the core of the process that we followed with John was a carefully crafted, individualized nutrition, training, and lifestyle plan. So to explain how we did that, let's dive into the 3-phase process I took and applied to John and each and every one of my clients through, essentially. And this is purely, again, just nutrition, training, lifestyle, strategic process. So the 3-phase system, we have the initial phase, phase 1, and our overarching goal here is to reverse your biological age. It's to improve your overall basic health markers so that you are in a stronger place to then leverage intentional stress through a caloric deficit and training and getting the most out of it and really pushing up your ceiling for progression, right? I see too many people jump into this phase 2 area way too early, and they essentially lower their long-term ceiling for progression. So that's really the essence of phase 1. It's to raise that ceiling, right? So with John specifically, we did everything that we could to, do things like optimize his testosterone levels, right? The main muscle retention hormone, by infusing, resistance training, foods rich in zinc and vitamin D, optimizing his sleep, looking at herbal protocols as well, and really a lot of lifestyle change to impact his hormones, right? We also address things like estrogen. If you're over 18% body fat, then I can almost guarantee you that you have elevated estrogen levels, which is going to hinder progress if left unchecked for a long time, right? We also want to look at things like, hunger control hormones, leptin, ghrelin. You can stimulate leptin, and this is what we did with John, by simply filling your plate with fibrous, nutrient-dense, and protein-rich foods, right? Helping with satiety and making you feel fuller, ideally on less calories, right? John also learned to understand his ghrelin levels, understanding that, a rumbling stomach was just simply a signal from the brain that could be skewed, and you can add a lot of meaning to that, but it's really just, ghrelin levels spiking, right? And actually, that feeling of true hunger from time to time has a potent fat burning effect and is often a requirement for fat loss to occur. That doesn't mean you have to be hungry all the time, but sometimes it's okay. It's a part of being human, right? We also looked at things like cortisol, and this is a big one often for the guys that I work with. John, he was no exception to that. Like, high stress lifestyle, had 2 jobs basically at once. His cortisol was pumping, right? And basically just pushing his body into a mild chronic state of fight or flight. So through a customized stress management routine, we were able to bring his cortisol levels down and get that in check. Now, most of us are experiencing chronically elevated cortisol levels, and we want more peaks and valleys with our cortisol. We're kind of like here, right? What you want is up and down, up and down. Ideally with a spike in the morning, and then maybe during a workout sometime in the day. And then at night, it's completely flatlining and dropping off and leading to the best sleep of your life, right? So if you're waking up feeling groggy and cloudy in the mornings, then your cortisol is probably out of whack. Also, cortisol belly is a legit term that's been used in scientific literature. It's a real thing, and basically elevated cortisol levels lead to fat cell dysregulation and accumulation, specifically in the belly area. Not good, right? So we address things like that. The broader goal, again, in phase 1 is really about improving overall health and really metabolic flexibility. And to explain that, John's body really needed to be more efficient at burning carbs, sugars, and fats, right, during exercise, but also at a rested rate. Okay, it's true that you burn fat in your sleep, and you can optimize that by bringing up your metabolic flexibility. The main thing that I look for in this phase, before I say it's okay to move on to phase 2, is hearing, Taylor, I feel younger, right? And as you can see from this message that John sent me, that's exactly what he said. You know, dude, I just got to say, I'm starting to feel like the college version of me again. Feeling really good. Green light, let's go into phase 2. Okay, so we're going to go into depth here with phase 2, because this is really what everybody wants to know, right? How do I eat? How do I train to lose weight? And I'm going to tell you exactly what we did here. So, armed with the health improvements and the increase to metabolic flexibility and all of those things that we got from phase 1, we started stepping into phase 2. Now it's time to optimize. John wasn't just some average dude anymore. He was now above average. Excuse me. So intentional stress became our mantra in this phase. Carefully leveraged through things like a caloric deficit and training intensity to drive accelerated results. So this is when John's hard work really started paying off, right? Results started really accelerating. He started feeling better. He started seeing that positive feedback loop. And he was also still surprised by how easily the changes were settling into his lifestyle, right? So that's the goal. You want to leverage that stress, but ideally it's still building those habits. It's still becoming a part of your lifestyle, your system, right? Something that you see yourself being able to carry on with for a very long time, right? But the real goal here, it really should be about trying to find the right caloric deficit between diet and training, figuring out what the minimum effective dose is in your training and your nutrition plan to drive the maximum result. That's the secret sauce here. So that takes a lot of course correction. That takes a lot of separating the data from the drama and actually measuring success week to week. And that's going to be different for everyone. The best training routine is the one that gives you an efficient stimulus to grow muscle and burn calories while being able to recover from it. That's it. It's that simple. Okay? Cut out all the other noise about what the best training program is. That's it. And the best nutrition plan is the one that ensures you're driving results, ideally on the most calories possible. Okay? So here's some of the specific things that we did here, right? We got his caloric intake plan. Ideally, we established that first caloric deficit. It's somewhere around maybe 10 to 20% under maintenance. So that could be 500 calories, somewhere around there. So you got to figure out where your maintenance calories are and then shave that off. And then you just check and see what you get from that, right? If things are going good, you're losing 1% of your body weight, cool, stay there for a while. If you plateau, we need another deficit. Those deficits get systematically smaller and smaller, right? And if you start running into things like fatigue, nervous system kind of stuff, and like really feeling lethargic, then you need to know how to manipulate that as well so that you can go into a recovery period. Because nobody can diet for more than really 12 to 16 weeks hard without running into some issues, right? With their nervous system and overall like fatigue and hormones and that sort of thing. All right, so that's it. Simple, right? If you're losing weight, you're in a caloric deficit, right? And then what are the things that make that easier? Portion control, figuring out how to, say no essentially and push the plate away. Other things that make that easier are macronutrient distribution. In my opinion, one of the ways that makes sticking to a caloric deficit as easy as possible is driving the protein up as much as you can, ideally 0.7 grams to 1.2 grams per pound of body weight, and then getting the fats in check, having a little bit of forethought about where your fats are, getting enough fats and quality fats so that you're supporting hormone function and cognition, and then capping it there. And then you have one variable to play with, and that's carbohydrates, right? And ideally you have a little bit more carbohydrates around training days, and then you can systematically bring those down, and that's how you achieve your caloric deficit to keep driving results. And then also having flexibility in the diet. It's so important. It's so important for your sanity to have options, right? There's a lot of great foods out there that are very low calorie but leave you feeling kind of full and give you kind of the the salty, sweet, those types of things, you know, those that kind of make you feel satisfied and give you that little dopamine hit. So I prefer replacement rather than all-out restriction. And that's what we did with John. The guy could probably make a recipe book on his own on just little diet hacks and recipes to try that are really fun and look like they would be terrible for you, but they're actually very low calorie. All right. So that just leads to overall more adherence, in my opinion. A few more things we did here on the training side of things. Very simple. We looked at time efficient workouts, minimum effective dose, right? You don't need hours and hours in the gym to get an efficient stimulus to the muscle. As long as you're pushing the muscle close to failure in each set, that's really all you need, right? And you just need enough volume. You know, a lot of people do a lot of fluff in the gym. And so HIIT training is really good for this. Literally like 20 to 30 minute training sessions is really all you need to build an impressive physique and continue to build muscle. He also needed a flexible training schedule, right? He was on the go a lot, sometimes traveling for work. So we needed hotel workouts. We needed contingency workouts. So getting around that and having contingency plans for everything leads to less excuses generally. And in step 3, we increased non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This is just being active as much as possible throughout your day. Like if you're working at a desk, this is really important. One of the things that I did with John and a few of the other guys that I work with is set a Pomodoro app at work. It's going to help with productivity, right? Set it for 60 to 90 minutes, do a little workflow, and then take a 5 to 10 minute break. In that break, get up and do some push-ups or some jumping jacks. It's going to make a difference in your total calories burned throughout the day. And not only that, but what it does for your health, what it does for your brain, right? They've got studies now that have basically proven that exercise is like a bubble bath for the brain. So do a little movement break every now and then. Your calories burned are going to stack up. Increasing your step count is huge as well. I've seen guys literally just increase their step count 10% each week, and that's what John did for a while as well. And it makes all the difference in ensuring that you are getting into a caloric deficit. Okay. And then of course, active recovery. Again, anything that brings your recoverability up, that means you can leverage more stress. That's it. Simple. Okay, so to save time here, I'm going to briefly go over phase 3. Also, this phase doesn't really pertain to most people, so, you know, take that for what it is. But basically, at this point, John had become a high-performing bell curve outlier, as I like to call it. His work capacity had never been higher, right? He was ready to enjoy his accomplishments and start pushing the boundaries and taking on new challenges. But phase 3 is really just about learning to accelerate and do performance sprints, as I like to call them, or decelerate, right? And focus on long-term maintenance, right? And understanding when to push hard and when to kind of revert to your sustainable system, okay? Now, remember, the success of your process lies in your commitment to it. The right process is meaningless if you don't do it, if you don't show up for it consistently, right? And what I've found is that most people understand how to follow a solid process, but the real issue is often that they lack consistency in the process. And that's why I'm not in the business of just like giving out diet plans, right? Lack of consistency in implementation, it often requires a deeper look at habits, behaviors, and usually faulty thinking that's influencing your actions and behaviors. So we'll move on to the next slide here. This is the second pillar, mindset and behavior change. Okay, the key to unlocking lasting transformation. So quick disclaimer, behavior is governed by belief. Okay, there's a joke, you know, about the guy who's hitting his head against the wall and his buddy walks around the corner and he sees him and he's like, you know, what the hell are you doing, man? And he's like, I'm hitting my head against the wall. Okay, and he's like, okay, I can see that, but why are you doing it? He's like, because it feels so damn good when I stop, right? So, you know, there's a real case for the fact that people become addicted to their own sort of suffering, right? And it's self-righteous. It points to the fact that the ego's intention is self-righteous. What I found is that guys, especially, we really tend to fall into this trap, right? But here's the truth of it. Any story you're telling yourself, you may think that you're getting something from that, But if it's a story about, not having enough time, not having the discipline, being lazy, maybe, your genetics, your upbringing, your history of failing in the past, your prevailing self-talk, your feelings, none of that is actually fact. None of that actually defines you. You are only who you are being, which is the culmination of your habits, your behaviors, your actions, and your process. Okay, so look, if you want to change the results in your life, if you want to be lean and athletic and healthy, you want more energy to keep up with your kids, you want to increase your performance and results in your work, if you want, things to be better in the bedroom, whatever it is, challenge faulty thinking based on fiction. Okay, rant over. So John was no exception to that rule either, right? He didn't just need a process. He didn't just need a physical transformation. He needed a mental one too, to ensure that it was going to be lasting. So instead of relying on sheer willpower, or resorting to, playing the shame game when he slipped up like he had in the past. By the way, I've been guilty of this as well, and I know this to be true for most guys. John, he learned to understand all of that a little bit better. He learned to understand his habits, his thinking, his behaviors at a much, much deeper level. So to do that, we worked through my signature course, the Automatic Action Framework, which provides an accelerated route to lasting habit and behavior change. Okay, so this is more than just a list of do's and don'ts. It's a detailed guide that helps you reflect on and transform your behaviors and mindset. Often the thing that most of the guys that go on to have continued success after the program say was the fundamental tool that really led to their success. So we had to understand John's current mindset. We had to understand his behaviors, his relationship with food, his associations to failing, and essentially audit all of that, right? And often, things like overeating or unhealthy habits in general are, they're not just about the physical cues, but seeking a means to an end, right? So we deployed my system to continually audit and course correct John's, eating habits, his triggers, any patterns that were surrounding him, getting and staying in shape, essentially, right? And this helped us identify and then reframe any negative associations that John had with those things. So, we want to see food not as a means to an end of stress, but as fuel for our bodies, right? But we worked on changing his belief from I must diet to, lose this belly and lose this weight to something more like I choose to weaponize and nourish my body with the right nutrition, because that is the thing that is aligned with my values. This shift from restriction and shame to more positive choice and value alignment that is so powerful and absolutely fundamental to sustainable physique transformation. So we also worked on the principle of Kaizen, right? This is the principle that Toyota adopted that basically states that change, no matter how big or how small, is a good thing, right? Basically, any forward movement is better than standing still or going backwards, which is often what we revert to when things aren't going perfectly or we don't get the big wins, right? And what I've experienced and what all of my clients experience is that small wins equate to big victories over time. Instead of overhauling his entire nutrition, training, lifestyle plan overnight, we focused on making small, sustainable changes each and every week by setting 2 to 3 weekly aims. One for his nutrition, one for his training, and then one for either mindset or lifestyle. Constantly trying new things out, measuring success, and overcoming hurdles if need be. So it's this incremental approach that's backed by science as having the highest success rates for habit change, because essentially what it does is it builds confidence and evidence and proves to the individual that they're capable of the change. And we enjoy what we're confident in, and we do more of what we enjoy. It's that simple. So for John, we started with simple shifts, in the beginning, like prioritizing protein, which helps with feeling fuller on less calories, before moving on to other significant changes like, tracking specific macronutrients and getting more granular, right? Again, the phase 1, phase 2 idea. Eventually, he got to a point where he was building momentum and wanting to take on bigger and bigger challenges as he built up that evidence, okay? So by understanding why he was making these changes and seeing the benefits, he was motivated to keep going.
And that's really what I offer as a coach. My main aim to get you to a point where you don't need me anymore, right? And this is the power of an evidence-based behavior change and mindset-focused approach to transformation. Now, accountability, I'll keep this one really simple. It is optional. You do not need external accountability to reach your goals. But in my experience, it really does give you the best shot at success and reaching that success in a shorter time period, right? Accelerated success, we'll call it. So as an accountability coach, my main role is to keep clients like John responsible for their actions, to motivate them, of course, and help them stick to their commitments and continually lay out the facts and then simply put them in a place of choice. Okay. So to do that, what we do is we have coaching calls. And for John, these were his touchstone, right? A place of focusing on specificity when it came to the weekly aims and the plan, real-time course correction, and, eventually, if needed, an occasional reality check, right? Or maybe I was pointing out some of his blind spots. But these sessions, they weren't just about monitoring John's progress. They were also designed to equip him with the insight and the tools to maintain his results well after the program ended, while also having me constantly, poke and challenge him to see things in a new advantageous way that would support his goal, essentially, and get him to that place where he didn't need me eventually. So here's an example of level 1 accountability, right? We agree you can fit a 30-minute walk into your morning, okay? And you say you're going to go do it. We come back next week and you haven't done it, right? So I yell at you and I tell you, you're a lazy piece of shit and you don't want it bad enough, and that's why you didn't do it, right? And now you got this maybe negative association with this drill sergeant instructor that you depend on to move you into action. That's level 1. High level, world-class accountability coaching is about understanding why you didn't do it. Instead, I ask, why? Why did you do it? And you share how you slept in late, right? And then I ask again, okay, well, why? And you say, well, I got an email from my boss while I was putting the kids to bed, and, I had to work on this project, and I ended up choosing to work late, right? So now we're getting somewhere. And look, maybe you decide that was priority, right? And that was the thing that you needed to do, more importantly than, going to bed early and getting that walk in, right? So now you can own it rather than beating yourself up. And we can, recognize that you aren't a lazy piece of shit because you're serving your values. You're showing up for your work and your family and providing, right? We can have a conversation about what to do next time to get around it, maybe having those contingency plans, right? Or maybe you decide, what, it really was an excuse. It could have waited. I could have gotten that work done later. But you understand why you made it, right? And armed with the insight, you can make a conscious choice to change it next time. It's about not leaving anything up to ambiguity and separating the data from the drama. And it's about having a trustworthy mentor or coach who believes in your potential and sees it because they've seen so much evidence of other people in your situation doing it, and they push you to meet that every single week. Now, the automatic action framework is also a form of accountability, but it fosters more self-accountability, right? And the way that we do that is we get really clear on things like your values and how you're showing up for them, right? You have to have a big bag of whys. And that's really what the automatic action framework course does, is it gets that crystal clear. And it's that time for reflection and insight so that you own it. And it's a simple choice. Do I serve those values or not, right? Now, John told me that it really did help him reflect on his strengths and also his shortcomings. But he had done that in the past already, which he was like, okay, well, I've done a bit of this. But this time it was more from a neutral and curious lens, which led to a different perspective. So it's this self-accountability that's crucial, right? And I believe that every individual is ultimately accountable to themselves. External accountability is cool. It may make it easier and more conducive. At the end of the day, you got to do the driving, right? My role is simply to guide my clients to this realization and equip them with the tools to take responsibility for that. So like I stated earlier, following this process, John lost 20 pounds during the program, and continued his journey since and has lost an additional 12 pounds on his own. And that wasn't all, right? More importantly, he reshaped his habits, his behaviors, his thinking to ensure that this transformation wasn't just another phase or fitness challenge that he had tried, once upon a time. And as John started to visibly shed the unwanted pounds during this program and seeing the positive feedback, things really started to kind of snowball from there, right? He started feeling and even talking and acting differently, right? And he was just showing up to these calls with a different energy, like ready to go, right? So this wasn't just a physical change, right? This was really, about a mental and emotional change as well, which is absolutely crucial, right? And he began to own this new routine and even adapt it to his own to make it really his thing. And he was looking forward to it. He was looking forward to prioritizing his health each and every week, every day, right? He started really respecting his word to himself. Like I said earlier, that's the most attractive thing that we see in other people. And it's the most attractive thing that we can do for ourselves as well. It's about falling in love with the man in the mirror again, right? And once he got to that point, the pounds just kind of started melting away. It was just kind of effortless. He wasn't dieting anymore. He was just living a different life. This is the power of a well-executed and fundamentally understood transformation system like the automatic action framework, which creates a virtuous cycle of continual self-improvement. Another cool little note, here's his most recent weight loss here. He also proposed to his fiance by the end of the program, dressed in all white, looking like a badass. So now that you have witnessed John's journey and understand how the system operates, I have a proposal for you. If you're a leader or someone who's not only responsible for their own success, but has a substantial role in guiding others and being a role model for others, and yet you find that your personal health and your fitness have been sidelined, if you're a dedicated professional committed to your craft, and you're somebody who takes pride in your hard work, and you demand more from yourself, but unfortunately your physical well-being has taken a bit of a hit, right? A bit of a backseat, and that's mainly due to your hectic schedule. If you're somebody who sees the reflection in the mirror and knows that they can achieve a stronger, healthier, fitter version of themselves, you just need the right guidance and support to bring about this transformation. If you're yearning for a change and wanting to take charge of your health and fitness, but feel lost in the myriad of diet plans and workout routines and all the noise, you're seeking a way to balance your demanding professional life with a fitness routine that's tailored to your unique specific needs and lifestyle. You want to reclaim control of your body and not allow it to become a limitation, but ignite your ability to perform at the highest level and channel this newfound energy and drive it into success, life success, professional success, every aspect of your life. I will personally implement the automatic action framework specifically for you. We will aim to replicate this exact process so that you can achieve similar results without the stress and hassle of figuring it out on your own. So if you're inspired by John's transformation and you want to experience similar results to him, take action on it. Hit the first link in the description, book a call, get a personalized walkthrough of how the automatic action framework would work specifically for you. And remember, this call, it's about you. It's your journey. It's your success. So own that, right? If we find it's a good fit, we can discuss how to work together and achieve the goals that you want in your health and getting in top shape. And in the unlikely event that it's not a match, I'm still gonna help you out. I'm still gonna ensure that you leave the call with valuable insights and guidance to set you on the right path. Don't wait for the right time on this one, guys. It doesn't exist. If you're still here and you hear my words and they're resonating with you and something is blossoming inside of you, take action. I'm looking forward to speaking with you soon. On your side.